Gospel of John, chapter 8. I was studying this week, looking through the different Jesus encounters with different women, and had been studying extra hard the woman at the well. Really thought that's where we were headed today, and the Lord changed my direction yesterday, and I thank Him for that. So, might be a rather intense message today, but I believe that that's the Holy Spirit's word for us. So as we have prayed, let's just have our hearts and our minds open to His word as He speaks it. So the end of chapter 7 says this, then each went to his own home. So what had been happening was there was this debate, this dialogue, this bantering back and forth between Jesus and the Jewish leaders of the day in regards to, is He Messiah, is He Christ, is He who some are proclaiming Him to be, and this is all happening during the Feast of Tabernacles. So it's important for us to realize that, again, this is one of the 3 feasts a year where Jews from all over come together. So there's large crowds in the area during this time, okay? And so this bantering has been happening. Chapter 7 closes out by saying, then each went to his own home. But Jesus went to the Mount of Olives, so He pulls Himself away for a bit, and then at dawn, He appears again in the temple courts where all the people, think big crowd, all the people gathered around Him, and He sat down to teach them. The teachers of the law and the Pharisees who, Jesus has been going back and forth with, this is what they do on this particular day. They bring in a woman caught in adultery. They made her stand before the group. And they said to Jesus, "Teacher, this woman was caught in the act of adultery. In the law, Moses commanded us to stone such women. Now, what do you say?" They were using this question as a trap in order to have a basis for accusing Him. So let's pause there for a moment. Let's try to understand the story. Okay, so the law does say that a man and a woman caught in the act of adultery are worthy of death, and they are to be killed. Law does say that. But there's a couple of curious things about this particular event, this particular picture. See, you have to understand that for them to be caught in the act of adultery, there has to be at least 2 witnesses that saw it with their own eyes, that then bring them before the community, claiming that they were caught in the act of adultery and therefore are worthy of death. So you have to have at least 2 witnesses, eyewitnesses of the event, and then the death would then ensue, okay? So here's what's interesting. There's a group of men that are claiming that this woman was caught in the act of adultery. But where's the man? I mean, it does take 2 to tango, right? If she was caught in the act of adultery, there was another person involved. But it's curious that it's just this woman being drugged to Jesus' feet, but there is this crowd of men. So apparently there was lots of witnesses. Now that's unusual, because understand, this is a no-brainer. An act of adultery is going to happen in private, okay? And the reality is, this particular issue, it wouldn't be very common for people to be caught in this act with at least 2 eyewitnesses that would be dragging someone to the council or whatever to then be killed for this. So we have unusual set of circumstances. We have a group of men that are dragging this woman to the feet of Jesus, claiming she was caught in the act of adultery. We don't have the man involved. He should be getting drugged to the feet of Jesus as well. But here's the reality. This is a trap. The whole purpose of this is to trap him. Look what it says. They made her stand before the group. They said to Jesus, "Teacher, this woman was caught in the act of adultery. In the law, Moses commanded us to stone such women. Now, what do you say?" They're putting this out there to Jesus. All right, Jesus, she was caught in the act of adultery. Moses' law says she's worthy of death. What do you say? Now, you may not think that this is a trap, but you have to understand we have two sets of laws at work. We have the Mosaic law, okay? The Mosaic law, which is what the teachers of the law are referring to, does say she is worthy of death. But overriding that in this day and age is the Roman law that's over them. And the Roman government has said to the Jews that they cannot take life. They have to bring the guilty parties before them, and then they will handle that. This is why Jesus was handed over to Pilate to be crucified, okay? Because of that Roman law. Remember, Pilate said, hey, you judge him by your own laws, and their response to Pilate was, we can't take life. We have to hand him over to you. You've got to do it, Pilate. Okay, so that's what's happening. You've got these two laws in place. So this is the trap set. Because here's the deal. If Jesus says, yes, she is worthy of death, condemn her, they're going to find a way to accuse Jesus by the Roman law. If Jesus says, no, she's not worthy of condemnation, then they are going to find a way to accuse him under the Mosaic law. Are we seeing the trap? We understanding the trap that's set for Jesus at this point? Either answer that he gives them a road towards accusation under whichever law he offends or whichever set of laws he offends by his answer. But here's what happens. But Jesus bent down and started to write on the ground with his finger. Now, we don't know what he wrote. Nobody knows. Loads of conjecture out there about what Jesus was writing, what words he may have been writing, what pictures he may have been drawing. We don't really know what he was doing with his finger in that sand. But here's a curious, awesome picture that my wife mentioned to me yesterday as we were dialoguing on this. That same finger that Jesus was using in the sand that day was the same finger that was used to write the law, putting the law, the 10 Commandments, on the tablets. The same finger, the finger of God, used generations and generations and generations before this moment. That same finger now is writing on the sand. I like conjecturing the possibilities of what he was writing. He may have been simply writing the command that they're referring to. I happen to lean towards another notion. I think that one by one, he was writing these people's name in the sand and maybe a sin issue attached to their name. You have these accusers who have brought the accused to his feet. They've got stones in their hands. They're ready to bring the judgment. Or at least that's what it appears to be as they're setting this trap. And Jesus bends over and begins to write in the sand. And I'll tell you why I think that's what he was writing. Again, it's just conjecture, but look what it says. Jesus bent down, started to write on the ground with his finger. Verse 7. When they kept on questioning him, so there's time. There's time. They're continuing the questioning till finally he straightens up and he says to them, if any one of you is without sin, let him be the first to throw a stone at her. And then he stoops down again and goes back to writing. Now here's their response. This is kind of a clue to why I think you did it this way. At this, those who heard began to go away one at a time, the older ones first. And I wonder if when Jesus bent down and began to write in the dirt, if he started with the oldest person and he writes their name and then maybe a sin issue attached to that. Ralph. Lying. Jim Bob. Because, well, that's a Jewish name, isn't it? But you can understand, you can kind of get a picture here. I mean, here's all these people. They've caught this woman. And according to the law, she is worthy of the punishment of death. But in trying to trap him, one answer or the other, he gives a completely different response. And he begins to write in the sand before their eyes. And after the second time of stooping down, after he says to them, any one of you who is without sin, be the one that casts the first stone. Starting with the oldest ones, they drop their rocks and walk away one at a time. Maybe after they see their name written out. Maybe they start walking away at that point. Conjecture. But a poignant picture. And Jesus never has to even answer their question. Because by the time he straightens up again, he says to her, where are they? They've all left. Where are your accusers? Is there no one here to bring condemnation to you? No one, sir, she said. Then neither do I condemn you, Jesus declared. Go now, he says, and leave your life of sin. When Jesus spoke again to the people, he said, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. The Pharisees challenged him. Same people challenging him again. Here you are, appearing as your own witness. Your testimony is not valid. They're referring to that. You need two witnesses for valid testimony. Jesus answered, even if I testify on my own behalf, my testimony is valid. For I know where I came from and where I am going. But you have no idea where I come from or where I am going. You judge by human standards. I pass judgment on no one. But if I do judge, my decisions are right. Because I'm not alone. I stand with the Father who sent me. In your own law it is written that the testimony of two men is then valid. I am one who testifies for myself. My other witness is the Father who sent me. And then they ask, well, where is your Father? Well, you don't know me or my Father. If you knew me, you would know my Father as well. Stop the reading there. Jesus makes a very important point to them, and that point is still absolutely relevant to us today. We still judge by human standards, don't we? We still do. That has not changed. After 2,000 years, we humans are still the same. In fact, the reality is this whole picture is what that phrase is talking about. The human standard of judgment. See, they show up and they're guilty of their own sins, but they show up dragging this woman who was caught in this egregious act of adultery, worthy of death. And it's true, it's accurate in the law. It's accurate.